Most of the time, Airbnb is a fantastic business and industry to operate within. It's been my passion personally for the last 4 years, though sometimes there can be some things that really create a lot of issues for you. I'm going to talk to you about my worst experience that I had with taking on a new property. Now, this particular deal was one that happened in Leeds, and it was last year in 2022. Well, this opportunity came around from an existing letting agent in Manchester that I'd done quite a lot of business with. This was fantastic news for me because I was getting referrals from a good agent in new areas that I know very good. Anyone that doesn't know Leeds, the supply is very controlled and the demand is very high, so it's very good. But this agent said, you know, if I was interested in this property, I would be happy to sort of take it on. Now, big issue that I had with this was it was a little bit further out from the city centre than I would have liked. The price was very good, it was in very good condition, but when I went to check the local Airbnbs, I noticed that everything was a rare find, so I was quite comfortable in making the decision to take on. Right, so then I proceeded to set this property up and everything was going fantastic. It was one of the cheapest setups that I'd done. I was very happy with the progress that I was making so far. Now, issues tend to happen when I got the first guest in. They reported issues of having bed bugs inside of the property, which is a huge issue if you're in the Airbnb space. Now, big problem that I had was this was the first guest that stayed. So this issue was round long before I arrived. So the first thing that I did was contact the agent. I wanted to let them know early on that this is the issue that I've got. I am not to blame for this because this is the first guest that I've had. Something that always agents will try and do is if they can stick the blame on you, they will. But in this case, it says, look, this is not my fault. This isn't something that I've created because the first guest has stayed here and caused an issue with bed bugs. I said to them I would try and rectify this. What I did was I swapped all the linen and all of the towels out and then get everything sort of deep cleaned. This meant that I could start again and then trying to mitigate those issues. We then proceeded to try and go live again, and it didn't go well. The bedbug issue had arrived again, so we found that the issue wasn't with any sort of existing linen or the previous guest, and actually there was a much bigger issue within the property. This is something that I let the agents know about, and then what they did was they arranged for a specialist of theirs to come in. And something that I did as well was I said to the agent, look, you've handed me a property that has not been fit for purpose, it's not fit to be rented out, and in turn I'm not paying the rent until this issue has been resolved. This created a myriad of issues with the agents and with the landlord themselves, because ultimately they want their rent paying. But at the same time, I felt like I needed to get these people's attention into how serious this issue was, because before this point they weren't really taking it very seriously and they just spent most of the time trying to blame it on me. So we then proceeded to get a specialist in, and they were saying that it could be so many different issues. There could be issues inside of the property itself. There could be issues with other neighbours that have bed bugs and they're coming in through the walls. But what they ultimately recommended to do was get the property heat treated. Now, at the same time, while all this was happening, the management company that I'd appointed to manage this property for me had pulled out. They said that they wasn't confident due to the amount of issues that had been created around the bed bugs and the procedures that they'd recommend to put in place that I wouldn't be able to get this issue resolved, and they saw it as a detriment to their guests. But I was now left with a property that I couldn't put on Airbnb but having to pay the rent for every single month, and also I haven't got a management company that would be able to manage the property for me. So what I had to do, get this place sorted and find a management company for it. But I managed to find someone who manages his own properties, and I said, would you manage this for me? And he said he would be happy to, providing that the bedbug issue is being resolved, and he was prepared to work with me on that. So we got the property treated, and luckily the bedbug issue was to be pending. Now, I'd had the report back from the treatment, but obviously I still was left with the situation due to what's happened in the previous times where I don't know if the bed bugs are still around. So I had to go there with no linen in any of the beds, with no bedding, with it just been heat treated, and basically be used as a human guinea pig to see if I got bitten the next day when I woke up. So I had to drive over there to Leeds, stop over and find out if I got bitten before I could launch the property on Airbnb. Now, luckily, I managed to not get bitten, and then we launched the property, and it has been fantastic ever since. It's been profitable most months. Sometimes it's been very profitable, sometimes it's been a bit sort of slow. But overall, it's proven to be very successful. This took around sort of 2 to 3 months, for it to work, and was a tremendous amount of stress and headache, but eventually we got what we wanted. Now, there's some key takeaways to have from this story that I want people to sort of understand, and the first one is network with people. You know, if I hadn't had the contacts in place, you know, for sort of to find issues with bed bugs, to find different management companies, if I hadn't networked with people in the industry, it would have been 10 times harder to get this issue fixed. And another one is an important lesson I want people to learn is that not every deal goes the way in which the people, you know, depict it to be online. Sometimes it's really, really hard, and sometimes issues come around that no one talks about, no one makes you aware of, but you have to deal with those issues and get them sorted. How many people here watching this video would have panicked in the moment and maybe try and just do what they can to get rid of the property? I can tell you it crossed my mind, but something that you have to do is be persistent with it. I'd signed a contract at the end of the day, so I was to pay the rent on that property for a minimum of 3 years. Now, if I just start throwing the towel in and try and find my way to get out of this contract, it's taking away time in which I could focus on what's important, and that's getting the property ready and getting the property to produce some money. And that's ultimately what led to the success of this property in the end, was that you have to be prepared sometimes to deal with these issues and get them fixed. So that's my message to everybody, is just get out there and not be prepared to give up.